The sun had barely risen over a landscape untouched by human hands, and the scent of damp earth and decaying vegetation hung heavy in the cool morning air. The forest stretched in every direction, its dense canopy a mosaic of shadows and light, moving with the subtle rhythm of wind and the distant calls of animals waking from their nightly slumber. Here, a group of humans, clad in hides and bearing tools shaped by stone, began to stir. They moved with a quiet deliberation, their gestures precise and rehearsed, as if the land itself had taught them these motions. They were aware of the presence of countless creatures, predators and prey alike, each step measured against a backdrop of threat and opportunity. Fear lingered like a constant companion, yet curiosity propelled them forward, shaping their understanding of the world around them. In the open plains nearby, a herd of grazing animals grazed cautiously, ears twitching, tails swishing, muscles coiled for sudden flight. The humans observed from a distance, their eyes tracing the subtle signals of movement and instinct, learning to anticipate the rhythms of life and death in this ancient theater. It was a world of scarcity, where the margin between survival and demise was razor thin, and every decision carried weight far beyond the immediate moment. Silence was a tool, and patience an ally, as they watched the herd shift and sway, reading the landscape as carefully as any map. Their understanding of one another, of their group's strengths and limitations, was equally vital. Alone, a human was fragile. Together, they could change the balance, tip it slightly in their favor, if only they moved as one. The decision to hunt as a collective was not born from strategy alone. It was a recognition of vulnerability, an acknowledgement of mortality that demanded cooperation. Each member of the group had a role shaped by instinct and experience. Some carried sharpened tools, flint blades struck with careful precision. Others watched the surroundings, attuned to the slightest sound that betrayed danger. The coordination was subtle, almost invisible, guided by gesture and glance, a language older than words. It was a fragile trust, a delicate balance where one misstep could unravel the efforts of hours, even days. Yet it was within this fragile trust that humans began to carve a path toward dominance, not through strength alone, but through intelligence, foresight, and the ability to act as a single organism united by necessity. As they approached the edge of the clearing, the earth beneath their feet shifted from the softness of moss to the harder crust of compacted soil. The wind shifted, carrying the scent of the herd. Their hearts quickened, though not with fear alone, but with the awareness of opportunity, of a chance to feed and to survive. Each step was deliberate, a negotiation with the world that surrounded them. The animals moved, unaware of the silent observers, and the humans adjusted, positioning themselves in a semicircle, an ancient formation learned through generations of trial and failure. It was not instinct alone that guided them, but memory, observation, and a growing understanding that cooperation multiplied their power exponentially. The hunt began not with a shout, but with a pause, a collective breath drawn in synchrony. The throw of a spear, the subtle nudge of an animal toward an unseen trap, the patient stalking through underbrush, these were acts imbued with precision and patience. The humans moved as a unit, invisible yet present, shaping the environment through their intent. There was no triumph in the moment, no exultation, only the careful execution of what had become necessary. When the prey fell, it was not a single victory, but a shared survival, a communal gain that would echo through the group in ways beyond the immediate satisfaction of hunger. These early hunters understood something that would take millennia to fully articulate, that life was sustained not through solitary effort alone, but through the sharing of skill, knowledge, and risk. Their minds, already evolving toward complexity, began to map not only the land, but the behaviors of other creatures and of one another. Every encounter became data, every moment a lesson in anticipation. They observed the herd's reactions, the subtle cues of scent and movement, and internalized these signals for future hunts. This knowledge, passed from one individual to another, became the foundation for a social intelligence that would define humanity. At night, when the fire flickered and cast long shadows across the forest floor, the group huddled together, sharing warmth, sharpening tools, and perhaps sharing stories through gesture and sound. The bonds forged in the hunt extended into these quiet hours, weaving a social fabric that provided security and a sense of belonging. The world beyond their firelight was indifferent and often hostile, yet within the circle of shared purpose there was a fragile sanctuary. These nights were not for celebration, but for reflection, for quiet processing of the day's experiences, and for preparation for the next. Survival demanded repetition, attention, and memory, all of which were honed through these communal moments. Seasons changed, and with them the landscape transformed. Rivers swelled and receded, forests expanded and contracted, and the movements of prey altered in response. The humans adapted, following patterns of life, learning the language of migration, and anticipating scarcity. The collective hunt evolved into a broader understanding of the environment: which plants were edible, which stones yielded sharp edges, which rivers provided safe crossing. Their existence became an intricate dance with the elements, where foresight was as critical as strength, and collaboration as essential as courage. Through this continuous adaptation, they were not merely surviving, but learning to shape their world, however subtly, within the confines of their reality. Within the group, hierarchies emerged, though they were fluid and situational. Experience commanded respect, yet knowledge was shared, and the survival of the weakest was often as crucial as the contributions of the strongest. Each individual's actions reverberated through the collective, amplifying success or exposing vulnerability. This network of interdependence would become a defining characteristic of human societies. It was a lesson writ in the language of survival, where trust, timing, and shared intent determined not only the immediate fate of the group, but the trajectory of the species itself. Predators watched from the periphery, their presence a constant reminder of mortality. Wolves, large cats, and other carnivores moved unseen, guided by instinct and hunger, yet constrained by their own limitations. The humans, in contrast, had begun to harness foresight, leveraging both tools and numbers to offset natural disadvantages. This subtle inversion of the predator-prey dynamic marked a turning point: the emergence of planning over impulse, calculation over reaction. Each hunt became a rehearsal for increasingly complex strategies, a mental mapping of cause and effect that extended beyond the moment and into the realm of memory, teaching, and refinement. Over generations, these patterns became traditions, rituals embedded within survival. Knowledge was encoded in repetition: the timing of a throw, the selection of a site, the recognition of animal behavior. Language had not yet fully formed, but a proto-communication evolved, a system of gestures, vocalizations, and signals that conveyed urgency, caution, or direction. These subtle acts of coordination allowed the group to transcend individual limitation, to create a temporary, fluid unity capable of confronting challenges far larger than any single human could manage. In this, the roots of culture began to take hold, as the intangible threads of cooperation, observation, and foresight wove themselves into the fabric of human life. The land itself demanded vigilance. Floods reshaped valleys, wildfires swept through forests, and the encroachment of larger predators forced humans to constantly reassess their strategies. Each environmental shift was a test, a silent examiner of ingenuity and endurance. Yet these pressures did more than threaten. They honed the intellect, sharpened social bonds, and reinforced the necessity of collaboration. Through hardship, humans learned that unity conferred strength, and that intelligence, exercised collectively, could wrest advantage from a world designed for survival at every turn. Time, measured in seasons and lifespans rather than years, carried the group forward. Children observed, absorbing lessons through mimicry and participation, their senses trained to detect subtleties adults had long internalized. Every journey into the forest, every encounter with prey or predator became an apprenticeship in existence itself. Mistakes were costly, yet they were remembered and corrected, engraved upon the collective memory of the group. In this careful transmission of knowledge, humanity's earliest foundations were laid, not in monuments or writings, but in the unbroken chain of observation, adaptation, and cooperation. Even in moments of scarcity, the decision to hunt together reinforced identity and continuity. The collective actions served as a safeguard against randomness, a method to impose order on an otherwise chaotic world. Hunger and fear were constants, yet they were mitigated by shared purpose. Food was more than sustenance, it was a symbol of unity, a tangible manifestation of the benefits of coordinated effort. The success of one was entwined with the success of all, and in this subtle interdependence, humans began to glimpse the extraordinary potential of their species. Night after night, the forest whispered its lessons. The wind carried stories of movement, the earth retained traces of passage, and the flicker of distant fires hinted at the presence of others, human or otherwise. These early humans lived in a world defined by contingency, yet within that uncertainty, they exercised foresight, shaping outcomes through observation, anticipation, and collective action. Each hunt, each survival was an experiment in cause and effect, a rehearsal for increasingly sophisticated strategies that would ripple through generations yet unborn. The evolution of cooperative hunting extended beyond immediate survival. It affected the development of memory, planning, and social cohesion. Groups that coordinated effectively could exploit resources more efficiently, secure safer routes, and mitigate threats with greater success. Over countless cycles of challenge and adaptation, this cooperative instinct became deeply embedded within human cognition. It was no longer merely a strategy, but a blueprint for interaction, shaping not only survival, but identity. Even as the terrain shifted and prey adapted, the humans refined their methods. Shadows lengthened across the forest floor as they tracked movement, read the subtleties of terrain, and adjusted positions. Each member's awareness contributed to a shared intelligence, a dynamic web of perception and action. These moments demanded patience and restraint, a measured engagement with the present, and yet they also nurtured imagination and foresight, laying the groundwork for the symbolic thought that would define humanity in the millennia to come. As dawn rose on another day, the humans rested briefly, eyes scanning the horizon, muscles taut and ready. Their world was not one of certainty, but of potential, shaped by observation and action. The hunt, repeated over lifetimes, became a form of dialogue with the environment, a negotiation between instinct and intellect, predator and prey, individual and group. This dialogue, subtle and profound, left imprints on both body and mind, teaching lessons of timing, cooperation, and consequence that would echo across generations. There was no fanfare in these achievements, no conscious recognition of the broader significance. The act of hunting together was survival, necessity, and instinct intertwined. Yet within these quiet, disciplined practices, the seeds of human society, cognition, and culture were sown. Each spear thrown, each step measured against wind and terrain, each glance exchanged between hunters carried forward the intangible inheritance of intelligence shaped by cooperation. Eventually, the land grew familiar, yet remained enigmatic. The humans learned to anticipate not only the movements of prey, but the subtleties of light, sound, and scent, the changes in river flow, and the emergence of seasons. Their awareness extended beyond the immediate, reaching into planning and memory. Cooperation was no longer a temporary convenience, but a structure upon which life itself depended. In these coordinated acts, humans first glimpsed the extraordinary potential of intentional action, of shared knowledge, and of trust exercised across time and space. In the quiet moments after a hunt, when the adrenaline faded and the group tended to wounds and shared provisions, there was a stillness that transcended the immediate. The forest around them continued its eternal rhythms, unconcerned with human triumph or loss. And yet, within the circle of shared effort, the humans had carved a fragile dominion, not through dominance alone, but through collaboration, foresight, and the slow, careful shaping of behavior. This quiet mastery, subtle and profound, marked the earliest steps toward the complex societies that would follow, though it remained invisible, instinctive, and unspoken. The wind shifted, carrying the scent of distant rain and the subtle traces of animals yet unseen. The group adjusted, their awareness tuned to the faintest signal. In these moments, action and inaction were equally instructive. The forest itself dictated rhythm, and humans responded with patience honed over countless generations. Fear, necessity, and curiosity intertwined, guiding every choice, shaping every interaction. The hunt, and the cooperation that enabled it, had become more than survival. It was a crucible in which human cognition, society, and identity were forged. No moment of this existence was trivial. Every decision rippled outward, influencing not only the immediate outcome, but the patterns of behavior that would echo across generations. Cooperation had emerged as a defining principle, fragile yet enduring, shaping the trajectory of human evolution. The act of hunting together, of sharing risk and reward, was a quiet revolution, one that would leave its mark not in monuments or stories, but in the very structure of thought and social organization. As the day drew to a close, the humans moved toward shelter, shadows stretching across the uneven terrain, eyes alert yet calm. The group remained attuned to one another, connected through subtle gestures, shared knowledge, and instinctive understanding. The land continued its eternal cycles of life and death, yet within this human circle there was a fragile assertion of agency, a testament to the power of collaboration against a backdrop of uncertainty. The forest whispered its ancient truths, and the humans, in their quiet, disciplined way, responded. Night fell, and the fire cast long, flickering shadows, illuminating faces etched with focus and fatigue. The group rested, muscles sore, minds alert. The hunt, repeated endlessly, had become a rhythm of existence, shaping perception, memory, and social bonds. Within the shared effort lay both survival and the nascent architecture of culture. The humans slept lightly, ears attuned to distant sounds, hearts measuring risk and reward. In this delicate balance between awareness and repose, the essence of early humanity endured, fragile yet persistent, a quiet testament to cooperation's power and necessity. And so, life continued, uncelebrated yet profound. Each sunrise brought new challenges, each hunt new lessons, each shared success and failure shaping the unfolding story of the species. The humans of this time were small in number, their lives precarious, yet the decisions they made, the subtle coordination of their actions, laid the foundations for all that would follow. In the hush of the forest, under the ceaseless rhythms of wind, rain, and animal movement, the act of hunting together revealed itself not merely as survival, but the first step toward the complex tapestry of human existence. And there it remained, quiet, unresolved, inevitable, a choice made long ago that would ripple through the ages, shaping thought, society, and the enduring story of humanity itself.